Good morning and welcome to the Corner of Research, where we are creating a golden thread for research. We've already addressed what the background to the study involves, as well as statements of the problem and the different aspects of creating a gap in the research. It's a sunny morning and the temperature is in the high 80 degrees Fahrenheit. I think this is probably high 30s Celsius. Anyhow, we're going to address the theoretical framework today and what goes into it for those of you who have that as a requirement. It helps to have that in any research study. And we normally sometimes would say, oh, when you're doing a quantitative study, you don't need theoretical framework. And you only need it when you're doing a qualitative study. However, the theory of a study is like the foundation. And so I would recommend that every study uses a theoretical framework to connect what you're doing to the theory within the profession. It also allows you to figure out if you can create a theoretical gap from the statement of the problem. So let's dive into that and see what a theoretical framework looks like. So the theoretical framework is the structure that can hold a theory of a research study. The theoretical framework introduces and describes the theory, which explains why the research problem under study exists. So the theoretical framework consists of concepts together with their definitions and existing theory or theories that are used for your particular study. I will give you an example soon. The theoretical framework must demonstrate an understanding of theories and concepts that are relevant to the topic of your research paper. And this also would relate it to the broader fields of knowledge in the study that you are undertaking. So the theoretical framework is not something that is found readily available in the literature. So some of you just want to do the work without doing too much reading. You can't do even the theoretical framework without diving deep into the literature. So you must review course readings and pertinent research literature for theories and analytic methods that are relevant to the research problem that you are investigating. The selection of a theory should depend on its appropriateness, ease of application, and explanatory power. So these are things you should note before you figure out which theory applies. Some of the students I've worked with come with a whole bunch of theories. And for me, if you can get one theory that explains all your concepts, I'm glad. At the most, it should be two, but anything more than that, you're going a bit too overboard unless you know how to break them and connect them to each other. So the theoretical framework strengthens the study in the following ways. An explicit statement of theoretical assumption permits the reader to evaluate them critically. There's a lot of thinking involved in research. The theoretical framework also connects the researcher to existing knowledge. Guided by a relevant theory, you are given a basis for your hypothesis and a choice of your research methods, which means that technically, if you don't do a good theoretical framework, you can't even provide objectives for your study, nor research questions and hypotheses. Okay, you see where the connection is coming from. So articulating the theoretical assumptions of a research study forces you to address questions of why and how. It also allows you to move from simply describing a phenomenon observed to generalizing about various aspects of that phenomenon. Having a theory helps you to identify the limits to those generalizations that we're talking about. A theoretical framework specifies which key variables influence a phenomenon of interest. It alerts you to examine how these key variables might differ and under what circumstances that difference occurs. By virtue of its application nature, a good theory in the social sciences is of value precisely because it fulfills one primary purpose. It explains the meaning, the nature, and challenges of a phenomenon, often experienced but unexplained in the world in which we live. so that we may use that knowledge and understanding to act in more informed and effective ways. For those of us in psychology, the thing we believe in is you have to know yourself and the world in which you live. So the theoretical framework may be rooted in a specific theory, in which case we would expect you to test the validity of that theory in relation to specific events, issues, or phenomena. Many social science research papers fit into this rubric. For example, the broaden and build theory of Fredrickson states that when people go through traumatic experiences, how they see these experiences can help broaden their views of life, thereby building up their reserves of positive thoughts and emotions that will help them navigate these trauma experiences. However, if they perceive these experiences as purely debilitating, then they get stuck in psychopathy and may not be able to heal from these experiences and possibly future ones. So a test of this theory could be the following. Does the broaden and build theory help explain how adolescents who have gone through multiple trauma experiences navigate PTSD, and why some of them also have post-traumatic growth or psychological growth? Okay, so when you are framing your research questions or your objectives, they have to be connected with your theory. So here are some strategies to develop an effective theoretical framework. You have to examine your thesis title and research problem. So the research problem anchors your entire study and forms the basis from which you construct your theoretical framework. Then you need to brainstorm on what you consider to be the key variables in your research. So for the student whose work I'm using as an example, the key variables are adolescents who live in slums, adolescents who have gone through multiple trauma experiences, or what we call complex trauma. And then they will want to find out these adolescents who have PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, and who also have post-traumatic growth, okay? And then when you've identified your variables, what you do is you review related literature to find answers to your research questions. Then list the constructs and variables that might be relevant to your study. So group these variables into independent and dependent, and this will come in when I'm talking about the conceptual framework. Okay. You also need to review the key social science theories that are connected. So there are multiple theories that you can use for a study that assesses adolescents, PTSD, trauma, and post-traumatic growth. And this could include the cognitive theory of trauma. We are now connecting the brain work to trauma. And so all these can be used, but then you have to figure out which one best suits what I want to do and then pick that one. So that's how we go about our theoretical framework. I hope you find this helpful. Feel free to share it with your colleagues. Thanks. Enjoy the rest of the morning.